from your past what it was like to play against you in high school back in Fremont. So I want to ask you, what do you think it was like for those guys trying to tackle you?
Man, I think I was a pretty good offensive player, back in the day, man. I felt like I always had pretty good instincts. I was fast. Um, you know, I was, kind of tall and lanky, but I had pretty good moves, so, and I felt like I was always a tough player, so no matter how many times I got hit, I got back up, I was ready to roll, man. So I think when guys were, getting themselves ready to play against me, I think they had to worry about me and really in all facets, of the game. I had great hands as well. I could catch the ball out of the backfield. I could, pretty much do it all. So I would like to think of myself as a guy that they really had the game plan for.
At that time, did you know the NFL was going to be in your future?
Well, I don't know if you ever really know. I thought I was a good player. I thought I could make it to a college, of course. I don't think I really thought about as far as like making it to the NFL until I think my sophomore year. And I remember there was a player out of Iowa that went, he was a corner and went really high. His name is escaping me right now. And I was like, wow, I don't even really know this guy, man. And he just went like 9th overall. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm the best in college football right now. So if he can go high, then I can too. So I think that as a high school player, man, I think I was worried about really getting to the next level, and then I would figure it out once I got to college.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Stephanie Sutton.
Hey, Charles, I just want to know what was most special about your time what was most special for you about your time in Green Bay during your years in Green Bay? And what was it like being on the same team as future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers?
Man, I think probably the most special things really are what happened off the field. My two sons were born. My time there in Green Bay. I got married in Green Bay, so that was really a time in my life when I was really growing. You know what I'm saying, as a person. So those would probably be, of course, at the top of my list as far as those moments. But I think when you look at the transition of when I first got to Green Bay and towards the end, it started out in a situation where I had no idea that I'd ever, be playing in Green Bay, to a point to where I was Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl champion, and thought that I would retire in Green Bay. So I think there was a transition there, man, that happened that was a beautiful transition, if you will. So that time was very special. And of course, my greatest, the greatest things that have happened to me, my two kids, happened while I was in Green Bay. So that'll always be memorable for me.
And being on the same team with Aaron Rodgers, what was that like? Obviously, your defense, he's offense, but what was that like being on the same team as number 12?
Yeah, it's funny because watching him as a young guy, as a backup quarterback, he was one of those guys that you saw very early. You knew what it was going to be. It was just a matter of time. Before he got his chance to shine, and once he did, he just continued to develop into, of course, now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. But it was always fun, going out there and playing against him in those little chess matches early in his career when he would be on the service team and we'd be the number one defense going against him. But I just remember, man, that the talent that he had from an arm strength perspective was like unreal. And, we had Brett Favre there, and he had great arm strength too. And both of those guys can sling it, but, we knew what Brett could do. But here you are, you're in practice every day seeing a guy who hasn't gotten his chance to get on the field as a starter yet, just zip that thing around and being as accurate and athletic as he was. He was a lot of fun to watch grow into the player that he is now.
Thank you, Stephanie. Ryan Schmelz.
Hey, Mr. Woodson. As a defensive player who's won the Heisman Trophy, would you like to see more representation for defensive players when it comes to choosing Heisman Trophy candidates and picking players who are considered finalists?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's it's always tough. I tell people that, of course, with myself winning the Heisman Trophy, what really got attention for me is the fact that I could do other things. I got my hands on the ball a couple of times on offense, big punt return against Ohio State. So those are things that really brought attention to me as a defensive player. And I don't, people always say, oh, he won it, but he was an offensive player too. No, I was a defensive player. I just could play a little bit of offense, and that got me the attention. And I think that you have some guys out there on defense that are very good, and they should get more recognition for what they do. I think what hinders them is numbers. When you look on the offensive side of the ball, and you have a receiver that has 16 touchdowns and 1,500 yards or whatever, or a quarterback who throws for 3,000 or 4,000 yards, like those are gaudy numbers. So those are the things that get people's attention. I look at Chase Young a few years ago. He was one that I think he had the closest shot. I don't know what happened with him and his situation as far as being suspended, but if he doesn't get suspended, I would bet my house that he would have won the Heisman Trophy. So I think that's very sad that he wasn't given that opportunity. Like I said, not sure what happened, but I would have had, a brother in my camp, there would have been two of us, but it didn't happen. But I do believe that defensive players should get the respect that they deserve for being game changers, for being leaders on the team, for being guys on the team that get their team to the next level. So I think it'll happen, but somebody's going to have to have that impact, like we had with Chase Young a few years ago. And if we do that, we'll have another one.
And what does your hometown of Fremont mean to you? And what do you think about your high school football jersey now being on sale in this area?
Well, I mean, it's my hometown. It's where I grew up. It's where my memories are of my family, my mom, my brother, and my sister, and all of my cousins. Going outside in Delaware Acres and playing pickup football games. Going to my elementary school, playing pickup basketball games. Like, in our community, man, we were pretty tight knit. So we kind of did everything together. We had a little baseball diamond where we would go and play softball games. And it would be the whole community, everybody. My mom would be out there, other kids' moms would be out there. So I just remember, my hometown, man, really being close knit. And I had a good childhood, man. I feel like, we didn't have a lot, but we had what we needed. We had everything we needed. And my mother, she made sure of that. She worked hard. So she gave us that, that example of somebody going out there working hard and going to get it. And I think that's of course, where my brother and my sister and myself, that's where we get that from.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Brian Salmond.
Charles, you hear me okay?
I got you. Yep.
Okay. Hey, Brian Salmon, the NBC affiliate here in Las Vegas. Congratulations first, man. I wanted to ask you about your emotions the day that they surprised you at your home. It was wonderful to see, but how difficult was it for you to kind of keep all of that in check? Your family there, your kids there, and the cameras there and everything else.
Yeah, well, you see, it was pretty hard, man, because I couldn't hold it together. It's funny because, you kind of talk to yourself, before those moments come, and you say, hey, I'm going to keep it together. I'm not going to cry, blah, blah, blah. And so when it, the moment actually happened, when the moment's real, it's real. And really there ain't no turning back from that standpoint. And so when, David Baker comes up and, you know what that all means, it kind of hits you. And then when I turned around and I saw my two boys, my wife and my mom standing there, you just, in your mind, you immediately start running back all of the time spent, at your craft and being able to get to that moment and what it takes to get there. And then all of a sudden that moment comes where they say, hey, what you've done means something. That was incredible. So yeah, I tried to hold it back, but you know what, when the emotions are real and they're raw, there's really nothing you could do. You kind of got to let the tears flow. And in that video, I made mention that I felt like I had been, running, all of my life, whatever, whether it was football, basketball, baseball, the many years in, college and the NFL, I felt like I've been running a long time. And at that moment, I was like, man, I don't really have to run no more. But I remember telling, David Baker, I feel like running like one last time. And as soon as he left my house, man, I put some clothes on, man. And I went and ran like 1.5 miles, 2 miles, man. I just had to get that last one out the way. That was my last one, before I went, or before I go into the Hall of Fame. So it's a great feeling. And it was, pretty cool that my boys kind of got to see those emotions because, afterwards they're looking at me like, man, we never seen you cry. What were you crying for? So they don't really truly understand yet what it is to kind of go through something, man, and to fight for something and for that to actually happen for you. So, one day maybe when they're in their 30s and 40s and, they've actually been through some things, they'll understand why Dad was crying.
And my quick follow-up is, one, I wish that we could all just go run a couple miles just like that with no problem. But secondly, how do you think about your new chapter with Las Vegas embracing you, your Hall of Fame, and, Raider Nation kind of picking up where everything left off in Oakland?
Man, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Just a lot of love there. The one thing I always, say, as far as any team that I played for, I think that the team respected me as a player because, I left it all on the field. I went out there and I played my heart out each and every Sunday or whatever day of the week we were playing on. And so, that's where the respect and the love comes from, is because I tried to give whatever I had. And so, just a continuation from, being in Oakland, having love there, and then now going to Vegas, and then especially with kind of helping me continue, my business, as an entrepreneur with the wine and the bourbon. Las Vegas has been very welcoming to me, as well as the Raiders. So I'm excited for the new chapter, for the Raiders. I'm excited for people to, fill that stadium so they can really, get a feel for what Allegiant Stadium is all about. And, hopefully these guys go out there and just win, man, because it would be great for Vegas to have a winning Raiders team in Las Vegas. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks. Congratulations again, my man.
Thank you.
Alex Fleming.
Thank you, Ms. Gooding. Alex Fleming, Florida Sun. Mr. Woodson, glad to talk to you again.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Now, you're a Hall of Famer, and it's going to be hard to compare you to other cornerbacks because you were unique, you were physical, you were raw. Who in this generation of the NFL do you see holding a candle to you or being comparable to you in today's current NFL? And any update on that ascot?
Well, first of all, the ascot, man, is it's in the works. So we'll have we'll have a couple to wear around throughout the weekend. So the ascots and Hall of Fame, baby, we'll be there. But in terms of corners now, the first one I would say at the top of the list is Jalen Ramsey in terms of kind of playing the game the way that I play the game. If you watch him on the field, you're not going to necessarily know where he's going to be, each and every game. There's going to be games where he's going to be on the one receiver, but there's going to be games where, they don't feel like they have the game plan for a certain for a certain guy for him to be on. So you might see him at the nickel. You might see him at dime. You might see him at Sam. You might see him, playing a deep half or something. And those were all things that, I could do as a player. You could just, I always, consider myself like seasoned salt. You can put seasoned salt in anything. It's going to make it better. So I feel like that's what Jalen Ramsey is like, man. So in terms of, just that type of player that you can plug in anywhere, he's that type of guy. And then as far as, getting the ball, man, I would say Xavier Howard, out of Miami. He's a guy that each and every week he follows guys around as well. He'll play inside, outside. But when it comes to getting the football, I don't think there's anybody that has better instinct and vision and, being comfortable with the ball downfield and getting your head around no matter where that receiver is and locating the football and going to get it. So I think those two guys, man, kind of encompass what I was as a player.
Congratulations, Mr. Woodson.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Maya Taylor.
Hi, Maya Taylor from Yahoo Sports. Congratulations on the honor.
Thank you.
I was wondering, what would you say is your defining career moment?
Man, how many? Yeah. Man, there's been so many moments. But I'll say, in terms of, like stemming from the last question, as far as, the way that I played the game, I think the game against the Detroit Lions, I believe it was 2009, playing against, Calvin Johnson. I was that week, tasked with playing the number one receiver. And so, like I said, each week it could be different. I could play on the one week, or the next week I could play more inside than outside. It just kind of depended on, what the team asked me to do. But in that particular game, I ended up with, 10 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, touchdown, and, probably something else. I'm not sure, but that just that kind of epitomized, what I was, as a football player. So I would just say that particular game right there is like it defines me as a football player and what I could do on that field.
And just as a quick follow-up, whenever people look back on your career, what do you hope they remember?
I kind of said that earlier. I was a guy that each and every week, I went out there and gave it what I had. It didn't matter, if I felt like I was healthy, whether I had a broken leg and played through the playoffs, whether I dislocated my shoulder the first game of the season in year 18, and finishing every game and playing a full season. I went out there and gave it what I had, and so that's really all I want people to remember or say about me is that, hey, there's a reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. And one reason is because he went out there and he gave it everything he had.
Thanks and congrats again.
Thank you.
Ed Graney.
Hey, Charles, how are you? It's Ed Graney from the Review-Journal in Las Vegas.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to go off the Green Bay question a little bit, bring it back to the Raiders. And I know this is a wide breadth and you could say many things, but in your mind, if you kind of had to define your Raiders career, what it meant to you, whether it was the family, your teammates, what you guys did, like how do you consider yourself a Raider?
Say that one more time.
Just kind of how you define yourself, Charles Woodson, as a Raider and kind of everything that organization kind of stands for and means.
Yeah. I think the thing about the Raiders is that, I've seen the Raiders from afar, kind of growing up. But they were, of course, West Coast, so you caught those games kind of late. And so by the time they came on, a lot of times, you might be outside, playing. So I really, understood or began to understand the Raiders, when I got there. I tell people all the time that, my first memories of going out there to the facilities and walking around was hanging around Willie Brown. And Willie Brown was a guy who made sure that you understood what it meant to be a Raider. And I remember the first thing that he would always tell us is that there are 31 other teams in the NFL, and then there's the Raiders. And so, that's the kind of mentality that you really picked up, once you got out there. I spent a lot of time around George Atkinson and some of those old players, Cliff Branch. So I knew very early on, what I needed to bring to the table as a young player, and I had to bring it. And it was about going out there, working hard every day, of course. But they wanted you to be a tough, physical, fast football player. And that's what I thought that I brought to the table. And I kind of got that direction from the older guys. So, when I think about my time with the Raiders, that's what I tried to do. And I think the greatest part for me really was going back the second time and, being ingratiated by the fans there. Just really, bringing me back with open arms, which was so cool to me because I didn't know what to expect when I went out there. But second time around, now I was able to really show what it was to be a Raider, to the guys who were there at that point in time. And so, I cherish those moments, man, those last couple of years playing in Oakland, representing the silver and black and showing those guys what it meant, to be an Oakland Raider, what it meant to go out there each and every game, no matter the circumstance, no matter whether we were up or down, whether we started off 0-9, which we did one year, it didn't matter. You got to go out there and work and get it done, man, and show your teammates, your coaches, and your fans, man, that you care about what's going on. So that's what I think about when I think about my time with the Raiders.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
Mike Spofford. Mike.
Charles, Mike Spofford from Packers.com. Congratulations and good to see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Referencing the transition you talked about earlier with Green Bay, I know you've talked in the past that it wasn't easy for you to make that transition. So what was difficult about it and how did you make it work and be so successful in the end?
Well, it was difficult because, when I was a free agent, of course, my thought is that I'm going to have, people crawling over each other trying to get to me. I thought I was that type of player. And when free agency hit and, I really didn't have anybody, really checking for me, that stung a little bit. And then in terms of Green Bay, I'd never thought about going to Green Bay. You hear, players that have been through Green Bay, especially black players that say, hey, man, that ain't nowhere you want to be. So, when I'm going through all of this in my mind, I'm like, kind of as free agency moved along and then the Green Bay started calling, I'm like, that's not the team I want. That's not the team I want calling me, And it just got to a point where it was, the writing was on the wall, man. If you wanted to play, you're probably gonna have to go to Green Bay. And so that was a tough pill to swallow for me because I couldn't believe that I didn't have, multiple teams and, maybe a bidding war or something. I wanted to feel special, like, being recruited coming out of college and that sort of thing, but it didn't happen that way. And so when I got there, I just had that reluctance, in my heart, man, and in my spirit, and I just couldn't believe I was in Green Bay, and so it just made me combative, off the bat, with really kind of everybody, and so it took some time, man, to just really be around my teammates, be around. I always give a lot of credit to George Kuntz, old Packer man, for just sitting down, talking with me sometimes, man, kind of bringing me along with them and meeting different people in the community and going down, driving down to Milwaukee with them and meeting people and just really just kind of settling me down a little bit. That really helped me out a lot. And then once I started, playing, got into a few games and started getting my hands on the ball, things kind of settled down for me. So I just think the football, guys I had around me, Al Harris, Nick Collins, Tremont and those guys, man, they made it work for me. You know what I mean? I felt like we just had a great group, and just through time, I was able to kind of just, kind of work through that thing, man, and say, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm making plays. man, you're gonna be all right. So finally, got to a peaceful point, man, to where I was like I said, I thought I was going to retire there.
Thanks, Charles. Best wishes to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. One last question. Marcus Padilla.
Hey Charles, how you doing, man?
What am
I
I?
know we're getting closer to the Hall of Fame now, man. But just want to know, how excited are you? Are you nervous? Do you have your speech ready or anything like that? How you feeling right now?
I feel good, man. I'm not nervous at all. I am ready. I think this is man, this is something pretty special. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to sharing it, with my family and all of the fans and all of the people that are going to be in attendance, right? And so, in terms of my speech, I run through it in my mind every day, man. So I know the direction. I know where I'm going. I know who I'm talking about. And I'm just going to get up there and let it flow like I always do.
And what does it mean to you to be inducted with, obviously, Peyton Manning, Tom Flores,
yeah,
and the
man,
rest of the guys?
Yeah. So, me and Peyton talked, briefly, when we got the news that we were in and we're down at the Super Bowl. It's like, man, we're tied at the hip. Here we are, 18 years, both of us in the NFL, Heisman Trophy candidates together, played each other multiple times. Our names will always be, synonymous in history. So it's a great honor to go into, the Hall of Fame with, of course, one of the best to ever do it. A guy who, really was a trendsetter, when it comes to football players and kind of changing the game. And then, Tom Flores, I mean, man, here's a guy who waited a little too long. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would say that, but he got his just due, and glad that he's around to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So happy for Tom Flores and all of the guys that we got going in, man. We got a great class. A guy I battled against, Calvin Johnson, Fanico, who's one of the best linemen, the game seen, Drew Pearson, John Lynch. So, man, I'm excited, man. I can't wait. It's going to be a great, great moment. And it's something that you get to celebrate forever. So it's not one night. It's not like, I go in on the 8th and then it's over and I'm no longer, saying I'm a Hall of Famer. No, I'm going to say I'm a Hall of Famer on that Monday, that Tuesday, the next week, the following year. I'm a Hall of Famer, man. You know what I mean? So I get to celebrate that for eternity. And what an unbelievable experience is going to be that night. And then for a lifetime, man, to say I'm a Hall of Famer, a game that you used to sit down and watch as a kid, and it seemed so out of reach. And then all of a sudden you get there, you play your time, and then they tell you, what, you're good enough to be amongst the greats. Man, it don't get no better than that.
Awesome, man. See you in Canton.
See you there.
Charles, thank you so much for your time today. This is going to conclude our media availability. Thanks, everyone.
Go Blue! Thank you. Go Blue.
Hey, security!